Welcome to another Natural Grocers Nutrition Education presentation.
Hello, I'm Janine with Natural Grocers, and I'm very pleased to present Ellen Kamhi. Ellen has a PhD, she's a registered nurse, advanced practice holistic nurse with the American Holistic Nurses Association. She is a registered herbalist with the American Herbalist Guild, which she is also on the board of directors. Ellen is the scientific advisory consultant for Nature's Answer. She is the leader in herbal nutraceutical industry, recognized for specializing in regulatory issues, formulation, and education. She mentors those interested in becoming a registered herbalist. She is nationally board certified as a holistic nurse and is on the medical school is a medical school instructor in botanical pharmacology and author of many books. These books include Cycles of Life, Herbs and Energy Techniques for the Stages of a Woman's Life. She offers CE credit approved certification programs at Natural Nurse Academy and free podcasts at the areas of natural health at www.naturalnurse.com. Welcome, Dr. Kamhi.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. And I remember many times visiting the Natural Grocers stores. So it's really wonderful to be able to talk to your attendees.
Thank you.
So today we're going to do a little presentation about things having to do with women's health and wellness. We'll be looking at some natural foods that really help with detoxification because whenever we're going to do anything that might balance hormones, the first thing to do is first consider detoxification. And then we'll be talking about very specific herbs that really can help balance for women's health issues. Things like false unicorn root and chase tree berry. A lot of great magical stories about all of these herbs. And with Nature's Answer, I have been with Nature's Answer since its inception in 1972, believe it or not, over 50 years. So thank you so much for hosting me today, Janine.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here.
Hello, and thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you, Janine from Natural Grocers, for having me and Nature's Answer right here to talk about natural foods and herbal support. Our focus for today will be for women. I have been working with Nature's Answer since 1972. That was their inception. And Nature's Answer has been offering the best quality of herbal remedies and traditional herbal remedies since then. And we're so happy to be a part of the Natural Grocer family. Now, I've written many, many books. Two of them are specifically about women's health, and one is called Cycles of Life, Herbs and Energy Techniques for the Stages of a Woman's Life. And that goes into all the stages that you might think have to do with a woman's life. For instance, how about menarche? Menarche is the first time that a girl has menstruation. And unfortunately, in our culture, that is very often ignored. And young women have a lot of difficulty, psychological as well as physical, at that first step into womanhood. So we talk about that in Herbs and Energy Techniques for the Stages of a Woman's Life. And another book that I've written is called The Natural Guide to Great Sex. And that goes really deeply into many of the hormonal situations that are linked to sexual health and wellness, women's health and wellness. For instance, the all important estrogen that influences the development of female secondary sex characteristics, and it is produced by ovaries and adrenal glands. And women do experience a decreased production during menopause, which is one of the things that causes a lot of those menopausal symptoms. Now, very often, conventional doctors only test one kind of estrogen, and that is estradiol. But functional doctors and holistic providers will test a range of different naturally occurring estrogens, such as estrone and estriol. It's very important to do that because then you can see really where someone sits. And also, these different forms of estrogen influence different parts of health and wellness. So, for instance, when we have estradiol decrease, then we have memory problems and insomnia. And if we have too much, it leads to breast cancer. Estriol, too little, causes vaginal dryness. So, it's a really good thing to understand so that you know which hormones to replete in order to bring people back into a state of balance. Estrogen dominance is when we have too much estrogen in relation to the amount of progesterone that we have. Very easy thing to measure. I think should be done regularly at conventional doctors as well as just OBGYNs. And estrogen dominance is the cause of so many women's health issues, such as polycystic ovaries, PMS, endometriosis, infertility, irregular menstruation, menopausal complaints, and most other conditions that are related to hormonal levels. So it definitely should be assessed regularly. Now, the good news is that we can really influence both estrogen levels and estrogen dominance by focusing on food and nutrition. For instance, pesticides and herbicides and anything that is not organic further throws the hormonal balance out of line. Also, eating hydrogenated fats in processed food like margarine and baked goods and fried foods, and not eating enough dark green leafy vegetables, not eating enough fruits that need to be organic. Berries are particularly high in bioflavonoids that have a mechanism of action to help regulate hormonal levels. And lifestyle is all important. So, how much stress are we under? What is our time management like? How much of our life is sent in a sedentary way? That means just sitting all day. Not good. You need to get at least 1 hour of exercise a day. Very often, when I'm doing lectures, people will look at me surprised. An hour a day? I don't have time to exercise an hour a day. Oh, so that means you're going to sit on your butt for 24 hours a day instead of 23 hours a day? It doesn't mean you have to be at the gym. It just means you need to be moving at least 1 hour a day. Also, birth controls pills definitely throw out that hormonal balance and are a big cause of that estrogen progesterone level being out of balance. And chronic yeast infections, because the yeast molecules themselves actually release estrogen like compounds. Also, a toxic liver. So, a liver not efficiently breaking down all kinds of estrogen and also all kinds of other toxins. If it is not doing so efficiently, then the liver can become overburdened. And low progesterone levels, now that can be addressed by using progesterone creams if our progesterone level is too low, and certain herbs, which we'll be talking about, which can help to support progesterone levels. Also, low vitamin B6, low magnesium levels, as well as low progesterone production by the body. Now, how would we know what our levels are? I am a really big proponent of getting your nutritional levels tested. And there are many ways to do that. A lot of doctors can offer that. And nowadays, actually, laboratories can do it for you without a doctor's order. So you want to know your vitamin B6 status. You want to know your magnesium level because any of those things can influence the hormone production in your body. Now, progesterone is very often too low, and low progesterone levels are linked to stress. So, if you have been under a lot of stress lately, good thing to get your progesterone levels tested because progesterone converts to stress hormones. So, when we're under extra stress, our body will create more hormones and lower the progesterone. It will create from the pregnenolone, which forms both progesterone and DHEA. DHEA is another important balancing hormone. DHEA is called androsterone for a reason. It's androgynous, meaning that DHEA then forms both testosterone and estrogen. And for those women who are listening who are going, testosterone, that's a male hormone. It is, but women also have it just in a lower amount. So all of these things need to be there in the right amount and working together. Low vitamin B6 and low magnesium level causes low progesterone, which can lead to an increase in cortisol. Cortisol is known as the stress hormone, and when that's elevated, it causes all kinds of havoc in the body, including things like inflammation. So they all fit together. We're really just one unique symphony all working together. There are other things that can cause estrogen dominance, such as sluggish bowels. That means less than 1 or 2 bowel movements a day. If your doctor is telling you that you have a bowel movement 3 times a week and that's fine, it isn't fine, because that means that excess estrogen and other toxins are remaining in the body far too long, and they can be reabsorbed. Also, you can have sluggish circulation, back to that, not exercising enough. Sluggish circulation of body fluids such as blood and lymph can cause symptoms like breast cysts or tender breasts associated with PMS and are actually swollen lymph glands. Also, low thyroid function. This may be undiagnosed by conventional medicine. You may want to see your holistic healthcare practitioner, or you can do a temperature test at home for your thyroid. So, xenoestrogens, those are the toxic kinds of estrogens that are found in the environment, such as pesticides and herbicides. They are estrogen lookalikes, and when they get in your body and your body links them to where the natural good form of estrogens is supposed to be, it creates all kinds of havoc and actually can cause the development of the growth of cells, which leads to cancer as well. So it's important. Petrochemicals, coatings inside canned food, and other plastics, such as baby bottles, can all have a negative effect. Once inside the body, the xenoestrogens can act as strong carcinogens, and we certainly don't want it to get to that point. So we can take positive action to reverse that, because when the strong xenoestrogens get in the body, they compete with the more mild natural form of estrogen for specific receptor sites, and they attach to those receptor sites and play havoc with the normal mechanisms in the reproductive cycle in both men and women. There is so much data and science with what I'm sharing with you. This is just one little article on xenoestrogen exposure and mechanisms of endocrine disruption. So, this shows that xenoestrogen exposure and mechanisms of endocrine disruption are really well known. And the fact that if you can decrease those environmental xenoestrogens, you're going to have a better chance of keeping that whole system healthy. Now we're going to go briefly into some of the things we can do about it. Like, how can we bring up totally naturally these excellent hormones that we want to have in our body? There is something in herbal medicine and in natural medicine that we call the Doctrine of Signatures. And here's three interesting foods, and we'll talk about what the Doctrine of Signatures are. So in oysters, these are called string beans or green beans, depending on where you live in the country, and this is a pomegranate. What the Doctrine of Signatures exquisitely tells us is that a natural remedy, in this case a food or an herb, will tell us, because of something about its form and structure, what it might be useful for in terms of health and wellness. So we often find in a lot of the shamanic traditions, and I have spent most of my life gathering information and living in with shamanic healers around the world. I write all about that in my book, The Natural Medicine Chest. And shamanic healers always looked at these things and have throughout history and said, what does this remind me of? So, gee, when we look at an oyster, a lot of shamanic healers felt that that mirrored a female organ. How about a string bean? It certainly has a phallic look, but when you open it up, it also has seeds inside. So the ancient healers thought that this might be really good for balancing both men and women hormones. And when we look at a pomegranate, this inside looks so incredibly like an ovary. even with the yellowish color of the corpus luteum and the little place that the seeds fit into. It's just an amazing signature. But what's more amazing is when we go into science and evaluate these three particular things, what we find is, let's say, oysters. Oysters have a long history as an aphrodisiac. In fact, Aphrodite, the Greek goddess of love, is pictured springing out of the sea on an oyster shell. Why? Romans documented the oyster as an aphrodisiac because they considered that it looked like a female genitalia. But now, as we get into science further down the road, we find out, you know what? Yes, it is, because oysters are high in protein and minerals such as iodine, phosphorus, and zinc. Zinc is particularly important because it's specifically linked to testosterone and sperm production. And remember, testosterone is important in women as well as men. If we're looking at green beans or string beans, whatever you want to call them, chemical compounds found in the plant are very similar to the steroidal hormones found in humans. Phytosterols actually fit into estrogen binding sites, and that inhibits the more aggressive xenoestrogens from pesticides from creating a toxic cascade that can lead to cancer and other diseases. So research shows that phytosterols actually have a protective effect on human tissue. Soybeans are another one that can help make sure your soybeans are organic so they're not genetically modified. So, if we look at very specific aspects of female hormones, such as estradiol, estrone, and estriol, which we mentioned earlier, guess what? Green beans actually have molecules that are very, very similar to all three forms of naturally occurring hormones. Just amazing when we think about that doctrine of signatures. And this looks like an insignia both for a phallic symbol and for a seed symbol. If you open it up, it has seeds like a female organ. So these are the amazing things in natural medicine that we find. One very important thing to consider is that if you are going to do natural therapeutics to help to raise hormones or balance hormones, really, before you even do one herbal remedy that is hormone related, let's say like black cohosh and some of the hormone related herbs we'll be talking about here today, the first thing you want to do is do a full liver detox for about 4 to 6 months. And in many of my books, I have very descriptive procedures for doing a full liver detox. It's very important because that's what eliminates physical and as well as mental pollution. You know, we have to look at what are those things that are making us worry. And there are a bunch of really, really good herbs to do detoxification. That would be celery juice, Cascara sagrada, which is a mild laxative, dandelion, which supports the liver, burdock root, schisandra, and rhodiola. These begin to cleanse the system. And once you're done with that, you can then really jump in for that hormone balance. Such a wide array of things that we don't want around. So, this we need to eliminate, like preservatives and additives, drinking too much alcohol. That's more than 2 drinks a day, petrochemicals, metabolic toxins, sugar really needs to be limited. All fast food actually should be completely eliminated. I have to say, personally, I've been doing this since 1964. And I actually have never eaten a fast food meal. I have to say, I mean, to me, it does not look like food. All kinds of overprocessed food, radiation, which is becoming harder and harder to escape, especially now that they've opened up the 5G to the world, all kinds of pharmaceutical drugs, heavy metals, cigarettes, as well as being attacked by bacteria, viruses. All these things can increase our environmental load or our toxic level. So, looking at the liver support herbs, we mentioned them: milk thistle, corydalis, artichoke, and eating artichokes, dandelion, yellow dock, burdock, black radish is another really wonderful one, gentian, fenugreek, and ginger. And then the colon cleansing, after we're pulling those toxins out from the liver, then we want to get them out through the colon. We want to be having like 2 bowel movements a day, not 1 a week. So we might think about things like psyllium, triphala, chia, marshmallow, licorice root, and cinnamon. These can be added in, and you want to get some really good quality. And of course, those products are available. Now, one very important thing is the mind body connection. And I really loved this album. Not everybody's old enough, I'm sure, to remember this one, but it was by the Funkadelics. And the name of the album was Free Your Mind. And there was actually a song that said, you know, clear your mind and your ass will follow. In a lot of ways, that's true. When you clear your mind, you have much better chance of getting your body to also clean up. And that is a big part of any kind of holistic protocol. Now, there's some very specific things we can do looking at that hormone level. And one, which is a really inexpensive at home intervention, is body temperature mapping. You just purchase a basal body thermometer. It looks like that. Amazon, CVS, easy thing to get. Make sure it's not just a regular temperature thermometer, it's a basal thermometer because the basal body temperature distinguishes fertile times in a woman's cycle and confirms if ovulation has occurred. So you can chart it and see where you're at. And that's a good thing to know, let's say for birth control and also for detoxification to see if the system is being balanced. You can use it both for not getting pregnant, if that's what you don't want to do, or for getting pregnant if you want to enhance fertility. So, having this body temperature mapping is excellent because it also mirrors how well your thyroid is working. So, even if you're having just an energy issue with your thyroid, you want to know about that. So, the temperature test is good for low thyroid function and fertility. I suggest you use a styrofoam cup. I don't suggest you drink out of a styrofoam cup, but you can use really any kind of cup that has a lid. And when you get out of bed in the morning, you pee in the cup, and then you can use your basal thermometer in the urine because that first urine of the morning will be your body temperature. So you don't have to lay in bed with the thermometer under your arm. That's called an axillary temperature, which you have to lay in bed for. Everybody's always in too much of a rush for that. But this is very accurate. You just urinate in the cup. Take your body temperature and then put it on that graph paper, and you'll have a really good self schedule of what's going on, both with your thyroid level and your hormone level. Another wonderful analytic technique is called a Darkfield Microscope. This is from my Darkfield Microscope. These are actually sperm that clients of mine who had infertility had come in to have them evaluated to see how well they're moving around. But on anyone, you can see here's some nice red blood cells, which tells you so much about your health. And here are some that are all broken up, which would indicate heavy metal toxicity, nutrient deficiencies, very specific information, which I'm not going to share here. But if you can find someone in your area who does a dark field microscope analysis, you can get a lot of information from that instantly from just one drop of blood. Sometimes this is called live cell analysis as well. So here's a whole list of some of the most wonderful herbs that are great for women's health. And of course, you can find them in many ways. Nature's Answers are extremely concentrated with a full 1,000 milligrams per dropper full. That's called an herbal extract. So here are some of the herbs you may want to learn more about. One is black cohosh because that helps with hot flashes and also balancing for bringing back correct hormone function. Siberian ginseng. By the way, Siberian ginseng, funny as it may seem, is an illegal word. The correct word for that herb now is called Eleutherococcus enterococcus, and I find this herb is excellent for depression and even just low mood and challenges due to stress. You can combine Siberian ginseng with rosebuds, and it's a great overall tonic and enhances energy. Licorice root, which has some estrogenic effects and also supports the adrenal glands. Dung Wai, which can be a strong phytoestrogen. I'm a little careful with Dung Wai because if somebody has heavy periods or heavy bleeding, then dungwai is contraindicated. So you want to speak to a good herbalist. Don't just jump on board with these herbs that you hear about without really understanding them. Chaste tree berry, which is also called Agnus castus vitex, is one of the most helpful herbs with symptoms including hot flashes, fluid retention, and mild depression. Wild yam is another great women's herb because it really is high in helping the body to produce progesterone. And it is available as an herb and also as a cream in the health food store. Nettles, which are highly nutritive, and they have much needed minerals and other nutrients. Great thing to add to your full protocol. And sea vegetables in general. If you live near the ocean like I do, you can just go down to the water and gather seaweed. Make sure you know what species it is, or of course, you can buy it in your health food store. And motherwort is a very helpful herb for hot flashes, irritability, heart palpitation, and other menopausal symptoms. Now, consider biphasic herbals. Biphasic herbals means that you use different herbs depending on where you are in the cycle. You would use pre-ovulation for estrogen support from day 1 of menses to day 14, and you would use post-ovulation herbs specifically from day 15 until the period starts again. So here's some considerations for biphasic herbal use. Ones that you would use more towards the beginning of that cycle are hops, black cohosh, dungwai, fennel, alfalfa, soy, and red clover. And some that you would use at that second half after the 14-day mark include Vitex, wild yam, sauce sarsaparilla, and fenugreek. So we'll go a little bit more deeply into a few of the herbs, such as false unicorn root. This is really one of the best tonics for the reproductive system and is equally beneficial for men and women. The Doctrine of Signatures would somewhat give you a clue that it might be for men. This actually can really help with both. It relieves menopausal issues as well. And as well as morning sickness. It can improve fertility and low sex drive in women. So that's one to think about, false unicorn root. Another one is hops. I love hops because this is a really gentle herb that was very much appreciated and was taught about by one of my favorite herbalists and teachers, Hildegard of Bingen. Of course, she lived in the ninth century, a little while ago, and she also is the person credited with brewing beer. She was a mystic, a nun, an herbalist, a composer. If you want to really get into some very interesting person that lived back then who was extremely eclectic and brilliant in so many ways. You want to study about Hildegard. Hops has this very interesting uh, strobile formation. It's antibacterial and supports the development of a healthy microbiome. There are so many discussions about microbiomes, as well as being very relaxing. It's excellent for nursing mothers as well. Hops dosage can vary, about 500 milligrams of dried herb that you can use for anxiety or insomnia, or tea, about 250 milliliters of boiling water over a couple of teaspoons, or it can be used as an herbal tincture or an herbal extract. Check your bottle when you're buying an herbal product because it will relate to whatever that product is in terms of dosage. And some people have adverse effects, but very little have been found with hops. Black cohosh. I love to collect black cohosh. We're collecting it up in the Blue Mountains. That's when I go in the fall to collect it because I'm a outside herbalist as well as being somebody who works in the laboratory and dealing with people in terms of herbal interventions. And this is the black cohosh flower, which is so beautiful in the fall. But the part that is used is the rhizome. But these flowers turn into rattles. And that's one reason it was called rattle root, because it dries and there are seeds inside the flower heads. And women always shook it as a rattle. This is a well known women's herb. It's also an analgesic and a sedative, as well as being anti inflammatory and a hormone balancer. It improves a thin uterine lining. In fact, every one of these herbs that I'm discussing has a vast array of specific scientific studies that have been done on them. You can go to PubMed anytime and look up any herb and find the vast array of scientific literature that supports its use. And so black cohosh is very deeply studied. There are some theoretical concerns about estrogen responsive diseases, but there's really no supportive data because it does not actually have estrogen, although it allows the body to produce healthy estrogen. Dosage about 40 to 200 milligrams of ground root, and in an herbal tincture or an herbal extract, it would depend on whatever bottle you're using to look at the dosage. Red clover is one that is so widely available most places in the United States. It grows widely, and you can just pop off those flowering tops and then save them, dry them, and make tea or powder them and put them in your own capsules, or, of course, buy a really well-made brand of red clover. Really supportive. Very low on the interaction and precaution level. It is generally recognized as safe. You may not want to take it in early pregnancy, although there's no specific warning about that. Just they say that about everything, right? And about 2 to 4 grams of dry flour or 40 milligrams of isoflavones, if it's standardized, would be good. Now, we mentioned Vitex earlier. This is actually my tree in my yard, and there is a reason why this is called monk's pepper. If you ever get to grow a vitex tree, a chase tree, taste those flowers in the spring. They have the most delicious peppery flavor, and that's why it's called monk's pepper. It's very nutritive. It's good for menstrual and hormonal balance. It affects prolactin, so it's good for nursing, and it reduces levels of follicle stimulating hormone and increases luteinizing hormone. So that helps bring up progesterone levels, which is so important in female wellness. The thing about Vitex, it's best to take it first thing in the morning because that will maximize its ability to stimulate the hormone receptors. So that's a really good thing to remember. Once you know you're pregnant, if you're in early pregnancy, it might be better to stop it, unless you're working with a knowledgeable midwife who can guide you or OBGYN. Fenugreek will be our last herb. The seeds are what is used, the fenugreek seeds. It's good for balancing blood sugar, which helps with everything. It's also soothing and nutritive. It's a mild laxative and an antipyretic as well as an expectorant. And so fenugreek is a wonderful herb. It lowers A1C. That's one of the best things because it brings down that sugar dysregulation. A lot of studies about it as well. And for your daily dosing, check your label. And here we are at the Department of Family Medicine in Stony Brook University, and there I am with brown hair. So how long ago was this? This was in the 1990s. I was teaching a group of doctors, and I was an instructor at Stony Brook University how to incorporate herbal medicine into their protocol. But I didn't like that they only used things as pills or even liquids. I wanted them to understand plant medicine. So we went out and gathered plants right on campus and made them into medicine. So they understood about that. And here we are with a group of doctors who we took to live with shamanic healers, and that was up in Jamaica, the bush doctors. So we take doctors there and anyone who wants to go to actually learn medicine in the field. So if anyone would like to contact me, you can always find me at naturalnurse.com. And we do lots of things like teach about career paths in natural health or how to become a registered herbalist yourself, botanical protocols, and also most of our classes have CE credits if you are a health professional. So with that, I want to thank Natural Grocers so much and Janine for this opportunity to share information with you on behalf of Nature's Answer. Until next time, this is Ellen Kamhi, the natural nurse, hoping that you stay healthy.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kamhi.
Well, it's been a pleasure to be with you, and I hope that everyone stay healthy.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone for watching. Remember to like the video and subscribe for more virtual classes from Natural Grocers. Are you looking for personalized nutrition advice to support your unique health goals? Please visit naturalgrocers.com/virtual-coaching to book a free one-on-one nutritional health coaching session with your nutritional health coach today.